The following podcast is provided by an approved senior care provider on the Answers for Elders radio network. And welcome back, everyone, to Answers for Elders Radio on this Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And how are we doing with our weekend time? And we'll probably have some time off, and we're looking around maybe our homes or a loved one's home, and you're sitting there thinking to yourself, if you're listening to this radio show, you're thinking, wow, there's a lot of important information. And that's what we are glad that you're with us this hour, and certainly glad to have Suzanne and Kristen here from Be Organized. And that's BEE organized.com. I work her bee, and I think of the buzzing bee. And you guys have a great mascot, because bees are like super in right now. I'm seeing them everywhere. So
they are, and not only are they in, but they're so efficient and organized.
Yes, they are.
Look at a beehive, right?
Well, and if I'm like a huge Outlander fan, I don't know if you guys watch the show or read any of the books, the Diana Gabaldon books, but her big latest, there's been 8 books, so this is the 9th book of a succession, a story. And believe it or not, this book is Go Tell the Bees That I Am Gone. And there's bees everywhere. And I will tell you, she's got millions and millions and millions of fans. So when I see that, that's just such a trigger. So
I love it.
Really cool. Yeah. So anyway, I want to talk to you guys now about, once you decide, okay, I know that I need to, get rid of my stuff. So how do you do what's called, I think you mentioned it earlier, a power purge?
Sure. I think the key to the power purge is knowing that you need to take what you love, what you need, and what you will use to your next chapter of life. That's the key, is to identify those. But I want to just kind of acknowledge a great book and a little quote here. There was a book written a while back by Margareta Magnusson called The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. Sounds so
I'm
scary.
A Swede, so I like that right away.
Kind of sounds scary, but here's a quote in here. Do not ever imagine that anyone will wish or be able to schedule time off and take care of what you didn't bother to take care of yourself. No matter how much they love you, don't leave this burden to them.
Very good.
I think that message speaks volumes into what our seniors are dealing with now, and what the legacy that they're trying to leave behind, and that is not leaving a burden to their family.
Sure.
So how do we do that? We start, by creating a wonderful relationship and an approach of compassion, being judgment-free, and confidentiality that will take us through this relationship with everyone we work with. But, it's a little bit about, like, how do you handle our stuff? We want to celebrate and honor those things that are really special.
Right.
For example, I worked with a lady a while back who had 12 sets of dishes. Suzanne, you were talking about dishes a little bit earlier with us. 12 sets she had inherited from grandparents and aunts and uncles. She loved those 12 sets, but of course, none of her kids wanted those dishes.
No.
So how do we deal with those 12 sets of dishes? Well, what we ended up doing was taking one saucer out of each of those sets and putting those on the wall of her new kitchen.
Lovely.
Yes, it was a great way to have that memory stay alive without having all of the china,
sure,
in a storage facility.
Sure.
So that's what we're looking to do. Similar situations like that. There's something special that you want to honor. You may not need to honor 50 of them. Maybe there's 1 or 2 that you can honor, put on a bookshelf, somewhere where you can see it and have that memory while still being able to purge. I think also what's important and helpful for a lot of seniors to understand is that, or feel, is that when they feel like they're having a meaningful donation, when they're giving their things to someone that will use or value them, then it's a little bit easier to give things away. So a couple examples of that is, we've worked with people that have home offices or maybe had a large business at one time. They have all these office supplies. Those are really schools, schools love getting those things as donations.
Absolutely.
They need those.
Absolutely.
Those teachers need those items for their classrooms. Or perhaps maybe they had a lot of pets. So they have pet supplies and, those kinds of things. Animal shelters love receiving those. And then I think there's also, we've been working a lot in the Seattle area with an organization called Plymouth Housing, who is focused on providing a home to the homeless in the Seattle area, getting them that first step, providing those social services, and letting them, take charge of their lives by first making sure that they have somewhere safe to live.
I love that.
Plymouth Housing loves to get donations for any kind of household goods. These people are coming in off the streets and having their first apartment in a long time. They need those things. So sometimes those are just examples of ways that when you know where things are going, or if you have purpose and intent on where things will end up, it's a little bit easier to just say goodbye to those.
Right.
So we work a lot on identifying, those things that seniors are passionate about that will make a meaningful impact.
It's interesting that you mentioned the meaning side, because for me, my mother had an original Shirley Temple doll. She paid thousands of dollars for her, but it was important for my mom that she had that doll. I never cared about dolls. And for how many years? 10 years since she died, it was in a box wrapped up. And till finally I had a friend and a little girl that lived next door, and they were talking about the fact that they love Shirley Temple movies. And I said, well, I happen to have an original doll. And she went, oh, what? And so all of a sudden I realized, the little girl's a little too young because I don't want it to be damaged. So I talked to my friend who's the grandmother, and I said, what would you do if I could give you that doll? She said, and it meant the world to her. And she has it in her sewing room up on a shelf in a case, and it displays it. And it makes me so happy that I was able to gift that to somebody that would appreciate that. But I think it's also paying attention to signs, of what things matter. And I think a lot of us, we get so busy in our lives that we don't think about, who would maybe like to have this. Maybe they're not a family member, but it's a friend. Could be somebody that, might be, just someone in the world somewhere that, would mean a lot. And I think that's really important, what you're saying. And it's what a wonderful way to continue your loved one's legacy, because it was something that meant a lot to my mother. And I know my mom would be thrilled at the fact that her, prized possession is honored in that way. So.
Oh, absolutely. I think the key is thinking beyond your children, or your immediate family, because there is so much value in many of the things that people own. It feels good to gift, right? Everyone likes to give, and to give with purpose and intent to a cause that means something to you. That's the best way to get rid of things.
Absolutely.
It really, really is.
Yeah.
So
and so go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just want to kind of underscore the organized approach, because I think it is different than some people that are just in there to get rid of your things. It's not just point and it goes away. I think these cornerstones of how Be Organized was formed and founded are paramount in what we do. So I'm going to talk about those just a little bit. The first one is compassion. I think this is key. We listen to these stories. We will sit with them as we go through things and understand.
That is huge, because you know what? I didn't want to hear this story from my mother of why she, what she did with the Shirley Temple doll when she was young and how she wished she would have had. I've heard the story a million times, but it's important for them to relive that memory. And the fact that you sit there with them is huge.
Absolutely. They want to share the memory and we want to listen. But at the same time, we often work in teams of two strategically. That's awesome. So that one person can be sitting and listening to that story while the other person in the background, is getting some stuff done and keeping us on task. It's important to be compassionate and listen to their stories while also making some progress. And that's kind of that's a skill. It really, really is.
Right.
The second one I think is super important as well. It's confidentiality. Some people are embarrassed by their things. Some people don't want someone to know. Many times these relationships that we're building with, especially seniors, we build a level of trust. It's a very intimate relationship. You're going through their things, Sometimes we uncover things that even their closest family members don't realize that they own. So we're going to keep their secrets safe. We're going to listen to their stories, and we're going to move through this progress in a very confidential, compassionate way. And thirdly, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but being judgment-free, everyone has a story. Everyone has lived a life, some ups and downs that everyone experiences. We've all been on this roller coaster, right?
Absolutely.
And everyone's journey affects them in a different way.
Absolutely.
So no judgment here. We've all been there, done that, had something that we can relate to that perhaps we're not proud of. We're not going to judge. We're just going to come in, listen to the story, celebrate what's important, and do that in a respectful, judgment-free manner.
Right. And certainly, when you're saying these things, it's like for you to spend an hour with whoever calls you and talk about those things, you can cover those information and you can have that confidential conversation with Suzanne. You can talk to those of us in Western Washington that kind of need a boost, because I think a lot of cases we want to purge, but we don't even know where to start. We don't know what to do. And we certainly don't know what's going to happen in the future, those types of things. So understanding a little bit more about how to start and get us started is huge, right? I mean, I can't even imagine. So please, to our listeners, if you are looking to, do a downsizing, especially looking forward to, I don't need all this stuff anymore. There's absolutely no risk to contact beorganized.com. That's BEE organized.com. And Suzanne, how else can they reach you?
Sure, they can send me a quick email at suzanne@beorganized.com. Again, BEE organized.com. Or check us out on our website, beorganized.com/Seattle. They can also pick up the phone. I love to hear, a person's voice sometimes is so welcoming. 206-627-0957.
Fabulous. And in our next segment, we're going to talk about downsizing. And Kristen and Suzanne will be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.